All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Just as a reminder, as you walked in, hopefully you signed in. We want to make sure we give everyone a service hour for tonight. So, first of all, thank you all for being here tonight. We know you guys have busy schedules and there's a lot going on. And so it's wonderful to see all your faces. In my 20 plus years in guidance, we've never had a mandatory meeting for guidance. So this is kind of a big deal. There's a lot of change that is happening with the Indiana Department of Ed and their requirements. And it does affect all of your seniors. And rather than trying to put this in a letter, we thought this was a much better way of sharing that information with all of you. And so some of you have been talking already about some of these changes, but we want to make sure all of you are informed. And I did have parents reach out to me and let me know they weren't going to be able to make it, so we are recording it. We will be posting it as well for those that were not able to attend tonight. So I'm going to jump in. And so the first thing I want to do is just introduce our guidance staff. So I'm Joanna Bedich, I'm the guidance director. We have Corey Bowen and Iona Wagner here tonight, our other two counselors, so there's 3 of us total. And you can see through under our names who has what letter of the alphabet, so you can match up your student to which counselor. And if you do have specific questions tonight, maybe about your individual student, we are free at the end, or feel free to email us or call us. You can set up a meeting if you want, just if you have concerns about your individual student. Some of the things tonight that we're going to really address with you. We have a few reminders with dates and things that we want to make sure you do not miss out on. I'm going to talk to you about graduation pathways, which is our requirement for graduation, and some things that have been updated and changes that will be made for her later. We're going to talk about pre-admissions. Pre-admissions is something new that the Department of Ed is doing this year, and some letters that you should have received from the Commission for Higher Ed. And if you did not, Ms. Wagner is going to be talking to you about that and what you can do to get that information. And then I'm going to end with FAFSA and talking about the updates there, because there's a lot of changes with FAFSA. And then we'll have a Q&A. Q&A after that. We'll see if this mic works better. We'll do a Q&A at the very end. And like I said, if you have individual concerns that you really don't want to ask in front of everybody, we're going to be available at the end, but we also are available if you want to come in and meet with us or email us as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Miss Bowen, Corey Bowen, and she's going to talk to you about some reminders.
Okay, so for those of you that just walked in a little bit late, if you want to sign in either right now or at the end, that would be great. So just a few general reminders before we kind of do a deeper dive and you can get some more information. A lot of your seniors, we've done senior conferences with all of your seniors, so we were very happy to have some of you parents in on those conferences. Make sure that if you have not started having those post-secondary conversations with your students, you go ahead and start doing that. It is not too late to apply to college. November 1st was kind of that early action deadline for a lot of schools. So that would be for a lot of students to have full consideration for a lot of scholarships, but that does not mean that they cannot apply for school still. So talk with your child, figure out what their plan is so that you're kind of all on the same page. So once they do start getting those acceptances, sometimes it can be a really difficult decision because they've been accepted to a lot of schools, and then you have to do the hard part of figuring out where is their best fit going to be. So if you have not been on college visits yet, after you get acceptances, that would be a really great time to take a visit. Maybe your student is in between two different schools and they're really struggling to make a decision. Get on that campus, get a feel for what it's like, meet with some of your missions, maybe really truly when you're on that campus, having a tour, ask students what their experience was like, and that will help your student get a really good understanding of what their experience could be in college. Compare and contrast your list with your student's list. Maybe you and the student are on kind of different pages about what you see their future like. So creating pro and con lists can be a really good way to kind of help really make that decision when it comes time. As far as dates go, May 1st is going to be that deadline for when you really want to make that final decision. Hopefully way before that, but you're definitely going to want to make an enrollment decision by that date. Kind of along those same lines with dates, housing applications. Some schools have housing applications that are a lot quicker than other schools. So once your student does decide where they want to go to school, keep an eye out for those housing applications. If you have more questions about that, definitely reach out to that school so that your student does not miss the housing deadline. And then, last but not least, if your student is not interested in college, that's totally fine too. There are lots of other opportunities. So if they're looking at going into a trade, maybe going to Vincent's or IE Tech, have them look into the Workforce Ready grant. It can be a really good way, but sometimes the state of Indiana will pay for a lot of their schooling if they're going to one of those schools and going into a trade. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Jillian, and she's going to go over some more information with all of you.
All right. So looking at Indiana graduation pathways, in order for a student to graduate in the state of Indiana, there are the pathway requirements. There's 3 things that have to be done, and you can see the 3 categories. So number 1 is completing your credits for your diploma. The second is employability skills. Third is demonstrating post-secondary readiness. And the first 2 are pretty cut and dry here at Cardinal Ritter, okay? With credits, I can tell you all of your seniors are on their credit track to earn either a standard diploma, a Core 40 diploma, or a Core 40 with academic honors diploma. So definitely everyone's on track with that. Even the second category, employability skills. There are 3 choices there, and that is completing either service, work, or project-based learning experience. And again, at Cardinal Ritter, I can tell you all students are on track with pathway number 2 because your student completes what we call a project-based learning experience through their senior project. So it is a graduation requirement at Cardinal Ritter to do a senior project because it is involving 2 required classes, theology and English. Those are both required for graduation, and that has to be completed for both of those classes. So that senior project automatically covers pathway number 2. And so 1 and 2 are pretty well set. Pathway 3 is where it can get a little interesting because there's more options there. So if you look at pathway 3, the very first item is complete a Core 40 with academic honors diploma. By doing that, that automatically completes pathway 3. Now keep in mind, if your student is on track with their honors diploma, you want to make sure they finish with their honors diploma so that they can still satisfy that requirement. The other category in the past that we have used with post-secondary readiness is the very last item, ASVAB scores of 31. Those are our 2 primary ways that we've had students earn pathway number 3 in the past. And it is changing starting with our juniors. But it can impact some of our seniors. So our seniors are grandfathered in this year. So the state of Indiana said on June 15th, hey, if you're going to use an ASVAB score for pathway 3, your student needed that 31 before July 1st. So if your student has a 31 before July 1st of 2023, you're grandfathered in, you're all set. After July 1st, if you use ASVAB as a post-secondary option for Pathway 3, you have to sign a letter of intent that you're going into the military. So that is after September 1st. So what we did to help our students out, especially our seniors right away, is Mr. Rowe, our new assistant principal, was tasked with what can we do to give more options to our seniors. We're doing an online program, as you can see where it says 2 CTE classes with a C average or higher. So we have partnered with an online company, an organization that they are doing career and technical ed. So we have some of our seniors doing that in order to complete pathway number 3. So some of our seniors were impacted by that, and that's been shared with them and communicated with them. But we want you to know that there are things that we're changing at Cardinal River, so that if you have younger students coming through, then we're going to be looking at maybe some different options for them and not focusing so much on either the honors diploma or an ASVAB score. So we're looking at adding more and enhancing more career technical ed classes like computer science, more options there, more options in business, looking at growing other programs as well. So that is with our graduation pathways and some of the changes there. Iona's going to talk with you briefly about our pre-admissions and the letters that hopefully you all have received, and if you did not, what they're all about and how to move forward with that.
Thank you. All right, so as Joanne said, I'm going to talk about Indiana pre-admissions. This is a brand new program starting with the seniors of 2024, really headed by the Commission for Higher Education. And the goal of this program really is to increase enrollment at Indiana college and universities by Indiana students. So there are 38 public and private colleges which opted into having this pre-admissions partnership with CHE. And so, students last year, their cumulative junior year GPA, as well as their SAT scores, were sent to these 38 colleges. Each college has a threshold cumulative GPA, as well as a threshold SAT score. If your student's GPA or SAT score met either of those thresholds, they were offered pre-admissions to that school. Okay, so how do you know if your student has a pre-admissions offer and what schools they've been pre-admitted to? Well, there were a couple letters which were sent out by the Commission for Higher Ed. There's an August letter and a September letter. The August letter is more of a general overview type of letter, just giving information on the programs as well as the list of the schools who are taking part. The September letter, that's going to be the individualized one that is unique to your student and tells them exactly which schools they have been offered pre-admissions to. Now, hopefully everybody got those 2 letters. If you didn't, it's not the end of the world. You still will be able to access that information. If you're interested in just getting access to that August, that overview letter, and getting more information about the pre-admissions program in general, you can either scan the QR code on this slide or also go to that link at the bottom of this slide as well. If you're not able to get that information now, of course, just feel free to email any of us and we'll get that information to you as well. Now, if you want the September letter, which is that list of schools that your student has been pre-admitted to, go ahead and contact your student's guidance counselor. We have access to that information via spreadsheet, so we will get you the list of schools that your student was pre-admitted to. Now, you're probably wondering what exactly does it mean to be pre-admitted to a school? So it's a little bit different from a complete admissions offer. Basically, the school is just saying, based upon your students' academic information, they are a good fit for us, and if they provide an application, a transcript, what have you, their chances of getting in are very high. Now, each college is going to view that pre-admission status a little bit differently, and that's another reason why it's very important to get that QR code or that link, because there is a document on there that lists each school and talks about its particular pre-admissions qualifications. There are some specific majors as well, like engineering, things that are going to have that really strong science and math foundation that may have some unique criteria for pre-admissions. All right, so I wanted to give you an idea now in terms of the schools that are participating in pre-admissions. So you can see too at the bottom part of this slide, so some schools that are not participating in pre-admissions. That includes like an Indiana University Bloomington, Purdue, Butler, DePaul, Notre Dame. So some of those more competitive schools. Now the schools that are participating in Indiana pre-admissions, you can see Ball State is on there in terms of public options, Anderson as well, pretty much every satellite campus of Purdue and IU. I would want to make sure that you're aware that Indiana University Indianapolis is on there, and if you weren't aware already, IUPUI is, they're breaking up next year. So the IU side of things is, from this point on, going to be called Indiana University Indianapolis. So that's basically IUPUI there. So you can get an idea as to the different schools participating. And again, that link for the last slide will also provide you with that information. All right, so then I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Joanne to just talk about some updates with the FAFSA.
All right, so the FAFSA. Lots of things to share with you about this. What I want to do, though, is some of you are probably real pros at this. Maybe you have history of already filling this out before, and you can probably instruct how to do it. And then I know some of you, maybe this is your first time doing it. And for some of you, maybe this is the first time you're hearing of the word FAFSA. I'm not sure. So I want to make sure we're all aware of what this means exactly. First of all, FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. I always love how they start out with free and share that. So with the FAFSA, it is a financial aid form that your student you would complete with your student in order to look for aid for college. There's 3 different types of aid that come out of the FAFSA. There's grants, there's loans, and there's work study. So, and the FAFSA goes by family income for eligibility, and that's it. So your students' excellent grades, test scores, none of that will factor in. And so it is just family income that determines eligibility. So with grants, those are the most ideal. I always tell my students, if you qualify for a grant, it's like winning the lottery, because it's money that's given to you for college. You do not need to pay that back. It's given to you, which is great. Loans, a lot of people can qualify for a loan, not as ideal, since those have to be paid back. But for some students, that's how they make college more affordable right after high school. And then work study would guarantee the student a job on the college campus so they would have a regular income. So those are the 3 types of aid that come out of the FAFSA. And again, it's need-based aid. It's looking at family income to determine eligibility. So the FAFSA, if you're not aware yet, is undergoing some changes. Normally it opens October 1st. However, it is not yet open. And we do not have a date yet, except we are told the same thing as many of you have been told, and that is December. Here we are in mid-November, we still do not have the December date, but but we are assured it will be in December when that opens. One of the good changes that is coming out of the FAFSA is that it's going from like 100 questions down to 30 to 40 questions. So hopefully that will be a good thing, and it'll go much faster. Now, so that's one thing, and again, a December opening. One thing that's new this year with the state of Indiana, all students, all seniors with class of 2024 are required to complete the FAFSA. Now, there are waivers. You might be sitting there thinking my student is not pursuing education, they are not going further on in their education. There is no sense in filling out the FAFSA. That's fine. We have waiver forms that we could even give to you tonight to complete and sign off saying that you would not be completing it. But it will be a requirement of students to complete the FAFSA this year. And so that will, again, open up in December. By completing the FAFSA, it's kind of what I'll call a two-step process. And step one can be done right now. And step one, we've been working with your students, a lot of them, and trying to do this. So step one is creating your FSA ID. That is nothing more than a login account. So creating a username and a password, and that is it for your FAFSA. It's really quick. The seniors that I've been working with, less than 10 minutes, and super easy to do. So a student must have their FSA ID, and one parent must have an FSA ID. And if you do not have an FSA ID already, you can create that now. You don't have to wait for that December opening. So we've been doing that with our seniors that do know their social security number. Some do not, and that's okay, but that step does need to happen. And if you already, some of you have older children, you've been doing the FAFSA for them. If that's the case and you already have an FSA ID, I believe it's about 6 years. If you've had one in the last 6 years, you do not need to create a new one. It's not necessary to do that. So, but if you have not, one parent needs an FSA ID and one student needs an FSA ID. So those are some important steps. And also, for students, if a parent does not have a social security number, that parent can still complete their part. They still need an FSA ID. But that means if you do not have a social security number as a parent, that means that you have to wait. You have to wait until December to do your FSA ID. That's the only difference there. If a student does not have a social security number, then they are not eligible to complete the FAFSA and have to complete a waiver form saying they cannot do it. We have a help session on January 23rd. We call it FAFSA Day. Karen Haven, who we've worked with for several years, she will be here, most likely in our library, from noon until 7. If you would like some help, she will be here to help out with parents. We would need the FSA ID created in advance. And so we would want that done before January 23rd. In fact, we would want it done at least a few days before, because there's some processing that needs to happen before you're able to start filling out the FAFSA. And so step one, complete your FSA ID for your student and you as the parent. And then step two will be completing the actual application. When it comes online, you can start in December or come to FAFSA Day to get some help with that. In previous years, the deadline has been April 15th. Please do not wait anywhere near that to help aid your child in finding out information earlier. We would just ask that you complete that FAFSA as soon as possible.
once it opens.
That is everything we wanted to cover with you guys tonight. We wanted to make sure, like I said, we felt like it was too much information for a mother, and there's so many changes and requirements now of your seniors. We wanted to make sure too that you were aware of that. We are recording this because we did have some parents reach out and say they were unable to attend. So we are recording, we are going to share that through our e-newsletter, and so we'll have that in case you walked in late or you need a little refresher on what was discussed. The other thing is we just want to make sure if you did not yet sign in, we want to give a service hour for all of you for attending. So if before you leave, just on one sheet, we want to make sure that you are signed in for tonight as well. Before I end though, I want to double check and see if anybody has any questions right now, in general. Yes?
What's the website for us to do the FSA ID? Is that the studentaid.gov?
Yes, the website, so the question is, what is the website for the FAFSA? And it is studentaid.gov. So, and that will help, and then you can go to create account, which will help you get started with your FSA ID. Ask your senior to help you, because we've talked to all of them about that. Any other questions? Well, again, thanks you guys so much for being here tonight and taking the time. Thank you again.